皆さんにお知らせがあります。ゴジラの新しい映画を撮ることになりました。楽しみにしていてください。よろしくお願いします。
On November 1st, 2024, it was announced that a new Godzilla movie has been greenlit by Toho. But the most interesting piece of news that came from it was that Takashi Yamazaki would be directing. For those that may not know, Takashi Yamazaki directed Godzilla Minus One, and I'm sure as many of you know, that movie is absolutely phenomenal. It was critically acclaimed, it was a huge box office hit both in Japan and in America. While this does seem like the most obvious decision in the world, considering that this movie was huge, that wasn't exactly expected though, knowing Toho's MO. See, given Toho's MO with how they just released Shin Godzilla and then didn't really make a direct follow-up, it was kind of assumed by fans that a sequel for Godzilla Minus One wasn't exactly a surefire thing. If you remember, Shin Godzilla was critically acclaimed, it performed very well at the box office, and yet, for some reason, it just never really got a sequel, even though that film, like Godzilla Minus One, ended with a little bit of a cliffhanger. So that's why this news is so important, because a sequel to Godzilla Minus One just wasn't guaranteed, despite all of the success that it brought to Toho. Now here's the thing, there hasn't really been any more news beyond just we're making a movie, so I wanted to kind of speculate and also go over some things that Takashi Yamazaki has actually said, and sort of speculate on what this new movie might actually be about. Now, the biggest thing that fans have been talking about is that, oh, this might be like Godzilla Raids Again, where Yamazaki is going to have Anguirus appear and battle Godzilla. I mean, looking on Twitter right now, Anguirus is trending, so it's very possible that this is the direction that they go in. However, I'm not the biggest fan of that idea. I'd like to see Yamazaki do something a little bit different and not just remake all of the old Toho Showa era movies. Those movies exist for a reason, and I think that it'd be better if he just did something new with the franchise. Basically, I think there's three possible options as to what happens next. We get a direct sequel to Minus One, we get an entirely original standalone Godzilla movie, or, the most interesting one, we get a remake of Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Now you may be thinking, Cole, what are you talking about? Well, here's the thing. At New York Comic Con, Takashi Yamazaki said the following: I think that for its time, Hedorah was a very cutting-edge kaiju, thinking about the type of visual expression we can do with technology and how far it's come today. I'm imagining how it would move, and I think that would be a really cool remake. Now, if you followed my channel at all, you would know that I'm a huge fan of Hedorah, so personally I think that this is a wonderful idea. I'm a huge fan of Godzilla vs. Hedorah, the 1971 film, but I do think that a modern update could be really cool. Given that there's a ton of environmental messaging littered throughout that film, it could easily be applied to today's modern concerns about pollution and all that type of stuff. There is so much potential for the story. Now, here's another quote from Takashi Yamazaki, so this sort of gives us an idea of when this movie could actually take place. He said, quote, "If there is a Godzilla sequel, then I would like to date it with how long it's been in our timeline as to what the characters have gone through. So if we film it 3 years from now, I would set it 3 years from Godzilla Minus One." This sort of confirms a few things, and that's basically, look, this movie will be a direct follow-up to Godzilla Minus One, and it kind of nixes the idea of it being a separate project or, a standalone idea. It would very likely be a sequel to Minus One. On top of that, too, in a Q&A, Takashi Yamazaki stated that Toho wants this sequel to have a $15 million budget. A lot of fans have been complaining, saying, why not 50 million? Why not 20 million? But I think you gotta remember, Godzilla Minus One didn't have a high budget, and yet it was phenomenal. There's nothing wrong with keeping budgets conservative, especially when it means that we can get more movies like this. If the quality of the film itself isn't really affected, then why complain? Regarding budgets, this Twitter account, The First Okiro, posted this on August 17th, and I think it's very important to a lot of Godzilla fans that they actually see this and let this register in their minds. The creator's budget was $80 million, Alien Romulus's budget was $80 million, Prey's budget was $65 million, and Minus One was $15 million. You don't need $1 billion to make blockbusters, just talented filmmakers. And this can easily be applied to this next movie. Basically, Takashi Yamazaki is a very talented filmmaker and storyteller, so whatever he churns out is going to be great. Seeing Godzilla fans complain about that is just really weird. It's like, Of all the things you can complain about, it's a budgetary thing that is completely out of your control. You're not making the movie, so let them cook. What do I think about all of this? Well, for starters, I made a video about 4 months ago that's titled, "Let's Argue Godzilla Minus One Doesn't Need a Sequel." And in this video, I basically say that Godzilla Minus One doesn't need a sequel, but that I would still watch it if it came out, because of course I would. It's Godzilla. In my opinion, I feel like Minus One ended perfectly. It does kind of set up a sequel, I get that, but on the other hand, it just ends in a way that's so satisfying to the audience. I do worry a bit about Noriko and how she has those Godzilla cells on her neck, and that kind of concerns me because I'm really hoping they don't go in like a Biollante direction. I don't know. But again, I already said it in this video, I'm gonna just let them cook. I'm not gonna complain about anything until I actually see it on screen. So, in the end, I'm more than open to them making a Godzilla Minus One sequel. I'm okay with just more Godzilla content in general. I don't have a problem with any of that. I have full faith in Takashi Yamazaki just absolutely killing this like he did with Minus One, because the guy's a legend. I think if they decide to make this into a trilogy of sorts, this could be on par with the Gamera trilogy from the Heisei era. Again, my overall hesitancy for them to make a sequel to Godzilla Minus One doesn't mean that I'm not at all excited for it. I am. I'm just cautious because Minus One was so good that I'm worried that a bad sequel might harm it. But then again, the more I think about it, the more I look at franchises like The Terminator, which has really 2 good installments, and then the rest are kind of eh. So when you look at this, for example, I don't really think that's going to be an issue with harming the legacy of Godzilla Minus One. I have very high hopes and high expectations for this movie. I think that it has the potential to be one of the best sequels of all time, or maybe it won't be. Who knows? At this point, I'm just kind of rambling. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, I'm Cole McCormick. You're watching Firewood Media. I don't really do news videos like this, but I wanted to kind of get my thoughts out immediately about a potential Minus One sequel, especially with this news being all over the Godzilla fandom and the community at large. That's also why I'm not really doing a face cam thing here, and you're just looking at my Gigabash gameplay, so feel free to roast me in the comments for that. Apologies if this video was a little off the cuff. I heard about the news and just figured, you know what, I'll just sit down with my mic and record some basic narration and not really get too big into the production side of it. I'm genuinely excited for this movie, and I can't wait to actually have the opportunity to speculate with everyone else in this community and sort of take it beat by beat as production moves along. That was already something that I just did on my own as a fan, but now to actually have a platform and be able to do that with an active audience is going to be a really cool and almost surreal experience for me. But anyways, I will see you in the next one. Peace out.